Alright, I'm gonna get straight to the point. People are unhappy when they play Brawlhalla because of things outside of the gameplay of Brawlhalla. You know, people are obviously frustrated and upset and unhappy with gameplay things as well. You know, very often when people are passive or evading or all that, but that's not what my focus is. You know, that's a completely separate thing. Because everyone talks about that. And you know what? Everyone has an opinion on how to solve that. When, like, what's the answer people give when they say Lance is broken, Axe is broken, it makes me mad? Nerf Lance, nerf Axe. Like, whether or not that's constructive, that's people trying to solve the problem. But what's the answer people give when we encounter post-game toxicity? They say, brush it off, you know? It's not a big deal, they're just mad, you know? Just close chat. That's not good enough, you know? That's not a solution. It's invalidation. People are made to feel unhappy about a game because of things outside of the game, and then we just say online games are toxic. Because, you know, if we just say online games are toxic, then that absolves us of responsibility and we don't have to do something about it. But let's do something about it, you know? Online games are toxic, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to prevent that toxicity from reaching the people that it'll hurt, you know? I don't want to tell a 10-year-old kid who's finally free from school where they get bullied and they get berated and they look forward to logging onto their favorite game so they can have fun and be challenged and escape from that for a couple hours. And then they're told to kill themselves and to slit their wrists just because they play Scarlet. Like, I don't want to tell them that it's not a big deal, just grow up, you know, brush it off, people are toxic, close chat. No, like, that's not good enough. Clearly, that's not good enough. And you know what, like, I use that example, I talked about this on stream today, like, I use that example because it hits more when you think about a younger kid experiencing the same things as everyone else, but this is for everyone, like, any age, any skill level, any degree of self-worth and confidence that you have. Like, right now, we're content with sitting in mediocrity and just saying, yeah, Brawlhalla community's toxic, because games are toxic, when it could be better. Like, we can do something about it. For a long time, like, I've contributed to this myself, absolutely contributed to this myself. Like, I've pretty much just accepted that the game community has a giant toxic side, and I've brushed it off, and I've set up these parameters for what I define community to be, so I can look at it as beautiful and amazing, which it is. It can be, it has been for me and others, but there's also this other toxic side that I can't ignore this anymore. I can't. It's eating me up. I really can't. I even made a whole video, which I've now privated because I actually think it might do more damage than good, about how I don't think the community is toxic, because I define community as this core faces of Brawlhalla that have changed my life in an overwhelmingly positive direction, and I'm like, that's community. I want other people to have that, but in doing that, I ignore that the toxic side is there. And it doesn't have to be like that, you know? I know that people are going to be resistant to change. I mean, part of it is like, we are literally wired to be resistant to change. We are wired to prefer the known to the uncertain, even if the known is terrible and the uncertain is good. Because that's just how we've evolved. Like, there's literally a part, I mean, I can get all sciencey if you want, but like, there's literally a part of our brain that does that. There's a part of our brain that is evolved to do what's familiar rather than try something new, because if what's familiar has kept us alive, then that's what's important. Even if it's kept us suboptimally alive, it's better than risking trying something new and maybe getting hurt. Unfortunately, again, even if that something new is good, we don't, you know? Often that's what keeps us stagnant or in negative spirals. You know, that's part of why abusive relationships are so hard to break free from, and another part of the reason why you'd rather spend 8 hours a day playing Brawlhalla and then going to sleep instead of 8 hours a day playing Brawlhalla and then 5 minutes writing a job application and then going to sleep. Because that job application is uncertain and it's scary and it's different. But, you know, now I'm really thinking about what can I do about it? And I've landed on a starting point. You know, it's not a solution to everything, but it's a starting point. And that's pushing for post-game chat changes. Again, small steps. We can't do everything at once. I mean, I don't even know if we can do everything. We probably can't. But we can do this. So let's try. I really think that post-game chat is the catalyst for a lot of toxicity in our community. I mean, obviously, like, confined to post-game chat, it's a big deal, but I think it reaches far beyond that. Like, I put out a tweet yesterday, I guess it's 2 days ago, for this video, saying how I feel like a lot of the negativity we see, like, online in Reddit, Discord, Twitter, you know, YouTube comments, Twitch chat, oftentimes it's a regurgitation and an internalization of the hatred that we see in game, you know? I guess maybe to illustrate that point, I'll have a little bit of a little questionnaire. I mean, maybe this won't be true for you. It's not going to be true for everyone, but be honest with yourself for a minute. Like, have you noticed that you become more hateful towards Brawlhalla or Brawlhalla players based on what you've read from postgame? Like, do you get called a spammer and then go on to calling other people that frustrate you spammers? Like, have you had to face waves and waves of hatred over the hours and hours you've played? And then now you find yourself believing those things for yourself or for other people? Or, you know, maybe even putting others through the same thing? Like, that's a lot of what I see, you know? And this is what happens over time, unfortunately. I mean, there's like, you know, I guess it's kind of a stereotype now, but there's a good reason why it's understood that, like, bullies act, like, a lot of the reason why bullies act the way they do is because they themselves are bullied in similar ways or, like, with similar mechanisms. I mean, there's this Key and Peele sketch about it. It's good. Anyway, you know, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But that's a little bit, you know, to look at yourself. And if any of that is true, that's okay. You know, just next time you find yourself hating someone, hating something, or spewing toxins, just stop for a second and think about why you're doing it. You know, catch yourself in the moment, because you may be doing damage to yourself and certainly doing damage to others. And I'm sure you don't want to. You know, you can't control what you've done in the past, but you can control what you do from now on. So just try and notice it for the future, you know? And I know that what I'm trying to do isn't going to magically solve toxicity and revert all the bad things that happen in the community and make people suddenly not attack each other. I mean, I know what this video is. It's just a video, but it also won't do nothing. And that's why it's important. It is something. And maybe by breaking the chain of negativity in one place, it'll make it easier for us to look at other places too, you know? So let's start with post-game chat. I have 3 ideas for things that I think could help reduce toxicity. The first one is that I think chat should be disabled by default in online matchmaking game modes. But it has the choice to opt in if you want. So by disabled, I don't mean that it, like how it is now, where it's just a little chat button and you click it to open and then it has that little dot and it has that exclamation point. No, I just mean online matchmaking game modes, by default, it's gone. And like gadgets, like the gadgets option in ranked, in order to enter like chat, in order to have chat in the victory defeat screen, both players will need to have opted in for it. And, you know, if not, then otherwise it's just the victory defeat screen. There's a couple more adjustments I'd make to it, but that's, you know, my future points. I think it's really, really important to be disabled by default. And like, you might just think like, why? Like, what difference does it make? People can just turn it off if you want to, you know? Why not have it enabled by default and then people can opt out? And the answer is really simple, which is that people don't opt out, you know? This is a bit of an extreme example I'm going to give. I think it illustrates my point though, which is that, you know, organ donation. So after you die, people, you know, they donate their organs, and those organs literally save other people's lives. It's an amazing thing to do. Like, you are saving someone else from beyond the grave. Like, that's crazy. Universally agreed to be a good thing. And countries that have you know, organ donation as the default, where you have to opt out in order to not donate your organs, whereas like most people are just automatically signed up to donate organs. Obviously it's not that simple, but you know, you get the idea. They have a good number of organ donations. I mean, it's obviously not reaching the, I guess, the need for it, the demand for it, but it's still a good amount. And then you would think that countries where you need to sign up to donate your organs, they would still have you know, super high numbers because, again, literally everyone agrees that it's a good thing to do. And there's a ton of good people in society. You know, I think the average person is a good person. I think most, I mean, this is my bias, but I think everyone's like a good person, really deep down. But like, you would think that because it's universally agreed to be a good thing, it does so much good and no harm to you because you're kind of, you know, that they would still have high numbers, but they don't. The problem isn't that people don't want to donate their organs or that they don't think it's a good thing. It's that they can't be bothered to opt into something, even if it's helpful. And that kind of goes back to the point. I mean, it's not entirely because of that, but it relates to, like, doing the familiar versus doing the unfamiliar, even if the unfamiliar is better. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying that I think it should be disabled by default, because otherwise I don't think that people would opt in, or opt out, rather. But, you know, I don't want to take away chat completely, obviously not. Like, if you're the kind of person that loves to make friends through post-game chat, or, you know, you enjoy seeing your opponents flame you because that's kind of motivator, like, I still want you to have that option. I don't want to take that away. But I also, like, recognize the amount of hatred that people are forced to face is way, way too much, you know? And I have a feeling that a lot of you will be thinking, like, it's not a big deal, you know? Just close chat. You can just close it. People just have a really weak mental, you know? Just don't even think about it, you know? Just grow up. Just get thicker skin, you know? But I just want you to try to empathize for a little bit, because people are struggling. Like, people are really hurting. People are really struggling. And if you think that they're just being babies because Brawlhalla is just a game and it's just words, it's just chat, like, then think about what the game is. Think about what the words are. Think about what chat is. Like, maybe Brawlhalla is the only light in someone's life, or one of few. And then they're told to kill themselves. That no matter what they do, they're garbage, they're human waste, you know? You're never gonna amount to anything because you're just a trash spammer. And this is like the one space where they feel like they matter, you know? Those people, they don't need to hear, just grow up, get thicker skin. Their emotions are valid. Like, it makes complete sense that those words hurt. Toxicity getting to you doesn't make you a weak person. It doesn't make you lesser than everyone else. Like, I mean, sure, maybe it can indicate some level of self-esteem and confidence to work on, because I know, like, that's speaking from experience. I certainly have a laundry list of those, and, you know, I do get affected by the words people say. I mean, maybe it's for different reasons than other people, but that's okay, you know? I'm not less of a person because it gets to me. Because I'm not at the point where I can just handle it yet. And that's okay, you know? The only thing I am right now, the only thing you are right now, is you. And if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel, and that's okay. And if someone's telling you to just grow up, they're just being mean. They're just being unempathetic. Like, it's a very real problem we have in this community. And we can do something about it, you know? And you might think, like, we don't need to do something about it. You can already close chat. Just close it, you know? It's not that hard to ignore it. But, like, let's look at things. It's clearly not good enough. We clearly have a big problem when we can close chat, you know? I'll speak from experience again. Like, when I see those 3 little dots of the opponent typing after a game, I get, like, a bubble of anxiety. Like, it wells up in my chest. It wells up in my throat. And I never open chat. I never open chat. And, like, I'm the one that has to stop myself from clicking that exclamation point because, you know, maybe it'll be a message that just says well played, or maybe it'll be a message with 6 different ways telling me to off myself and that my mom's gonna die. Like, why do I have to be the one that doesn't click that? When it can be better, you know? There's this active one-way relationship right now we have with people that, you know, just close chat. Like, one of the people, is that, I can't, my words sound so weird right now. One of the people in the lobby is grasping for attention, and then, like, I have to be the one that's steady and, like, constant enough to just ignore it, you know? Like, what we have right now isn't good enough. And that's why it's important for me to think of something that could work, you know? Disabling chat by default limits the amount of hatred that people are forced to face, or forced to ignore, you know? If you have chat closed right now, you're forced to ignore it, you know? The opt-in option still gives that window for people that would like to use it. So, like, again, I definitely don't want to take it away. but like also recognize we have a big problem. And I recognize that implementing this and the other things I'm going to talk about, my next 2 points, like it's going to take time. It's going to take resources, it's going to take money, it's going to take bravery, it's going to take heart from BMG. So please don't harass the developers. I mean, it's super ironic, right? If you're harassing the devs to do something to reduce toxicity, like, don't you see how ironic that is? Like, but like also it's just wrong. I mean, like, don't harass anyone in general, but that's like, I guess, a separate point. Like, I'm pushing for this, like, personally, you know? I'm pushing because I think it's super important. Like, I care so much about this game. I care so much about this community, and really, like, when it really comes down to it, I care so much about you. Like, I don't want you to be unhappy because of things that we could do something about. Like, I know online games are just toxic, and, like, yeah, I'm not gonna ignore that, but we can do things to stop it spreading to people that'll hurt. Again, like, that's what I'm really focused on. And if that person is you, then I'm doing this for you, because I think you matter, and I think that you shouldn't have to keep dealing with this, you know? Those that go into matches from the get-go, they know, you know, the second the match is over, they're typing up a storm, they're gonna flame you. They can't do that if your chat is disabled. They can't touch you. They can't affect your life at all in any negative way. You know, whether you see the message or not, whether you see the ... or the exclamation point, if chat is disabled, they can't touch you, you know? And, like, I really want you to be okay. I really want you to not have to be strong-willed enough to just deal with it, you know? If you don't have to. You know, maybe people will say, like, oh, it builds character, you know? You're just telling people that they can't be, you know, grow stronger and grow thicker skin, but, like, that's missing the point. It's not about denying the fact that people can grow. It's about, like, stopping the hurt that we can. And I really want to try. You know, I might not be able to do anything. This video might do absolutely nothing. But I really want to try. So, my second idea is to remove the GG button for all players. You know, I have a feeling that this might be either seeming super extreme or super pointless depending on your outlook, because, you know, some people care a lot about the GG button and some people don't, you know. Some people press it automatically every single time, and some people never press it, like, on principle. Like, I know people that fall into all of those, but I hope by the end of this point that you'll see that regardless of your personal GG button habits, removing it will be a benefit to the overall community. I really believe that, you know. Whether or not it's true on an individual level for you, like, the GG button has become this community indicator of a baseline of mutual respect, and a baseline that can only go down, not up, you know? And because of that, it holds real power. Like, people say the GG button is useless, but I disagree. I think it holds real power. But I think I'll need to explain that. Like, first, let's think about what we think the GG button does versus what it actually does. So, we think the GG button would be a way to demonstrate respect and sportsmanship, to promote positivity. But what the GG button actually does is act as a way to demonstrate disrespect and negativity, you know? As I was working on this video, I wanted to make sure that I was nailing things that were actually problems. And I wanted to make sure that the GG button was an actual problem, because I think that a lot of you, like, listening to this right now probably don't think it's that big of a deal. So I asked my Discord 2 questions. The first was, do you feel like the GG button is some kind of indicator of whether a match is a good game or not? Like, do you actually use it when it's a good game? Or do you just press it or not press it automatically? And the responses I got were, the GG button is useless. I press GG if I had fun or not. I feel like GG is just an impulse button. Every match I just press GG. I feel like the GG button, I just press it on autopilot. And the GG button means literally nothing, it's just a habit to press it. Like, overwhelmingly, people responded that pressing it means nothing to them. But then, I asked them the next question, which is, when someone doesn't GG you, does that negatively affect your mental state at all? And the response I got was, yes. The GG button low-key has power. Whenever I win and the other player doesn't say GG, I think, wow, sore loser. And it kind of hurts if someone didn't press GG. It kind of hurts. And yes, when I'm really salty, I don't press GG either. So let's think about that. Like, when people press GG and see their opponents press GG, they feel nothing. But when their opponent doesn't press it, they feel worse. Like, that's really important to think about. The GG button has literally the opposite effect of what it's supposed to. Like, when that person responded saying, like, the GG button is useless to the first question, what they mean is that pressing it means nothing. You know? The person that said that it kind of hurts when the other player doesn't press it, like, their response to the first question was, the GG button's like automation. It doesn't mean anything. But then, when I asked if it negatively affects their mental state, they said that it had power. They said, yes, it has power. Like, do you see what I'm getting at here? It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if you press the GG button or not, you know? Because when you press it, it means nothing. And when you don't, for some reason, it hurts people, you know? Why have something in the game that does nothing when it's used, but makes people feel worse when it's not used? Like, again, I know a lot of you might be thinking, like, it's not a big deal if people don't GG you. Kind of just move on. It's just a button. But that's really not the point. It's that, like, maybe it is a big deal, maybe it isn't. Like, that's up to you to decide. But if it's something in the game that produces pretty much no good, but makes people feel worse, then we shouldn't have it. Like, you can only lose with the GG button. So I think that every match should just end with the victory defeat screen, and the character models have the GG speech bubble. You don't press a button, you don't not press a button, like, that's it. And maybe down the line we can think about and workshop something like a commend button that other games have, but, you know, I'm a little hesitant to jump on that right away, because, you know, I don't want that to turn into what the GG button is now. But, like, again, it's something that produces no positivity when it's used, but it produces negativity when it's not used, you know? I don't want people feeling worse about themselves when they win a game, because, you know, that shouldn't make sense logically, right? Like, people shouldn't feel worse about themselves after they win a game, but they do right now. That can happen with the GG button, with just the GG button. Even if you have chat closed, that can happen with the GG button. So, like, why have it at all if it can only bring you down? And again, I want to reiterate this, like, I don't want this to become an opening. I know I'm very passionate and, like, maybe even a little aggressive about the things I'm, like, trying to push, but it's, again, because I'm super invested. I very much believe in this, but, like, don't use this as an invitation to flame BMG. Like, wow, why would you ever put a GG button? Like, no, that's not what I'm getting at. Like, I'm saying that things aren't good enough right now, but that doesn't mean BMG isn't a good enough company. The devs aren't doing a good enough job. No, that's just, like, look at what we have right now and look at what we could have. I guess that's a good segue into my third and final point for the video, or final idea, I guess, which is to remove all lobby indicators for chat off players, you know? So that means no indication of when the opponent leaves the victory defeat screen, no option to add friend or see profile, and no report button. So let's go through this. The first thing is, like, why remove the indicator of when people leave? Because, like, what does that do? Well, in many ways, I think it's similar to the GG button. Like, where in a chat closed lobby, it has no positive effect, but it does have a negative effect on people's, you know, mental states, their mental well-being. Like, the way we're wired is to wonder. I guess I'm getting sciencey again, but I guess that gives me a little bit of validity. I don't actually know. By the way, I'm not a professional in anything I say, so just take that into consideration. But, like, the way we're wired is to wonder what other people are thinking when they make decisions, because that's a survival mechanism. It's an evolutionary advantage. Like, it's similar to what I was describing with the staying in the familiar versus the uncertain kind of thing. Like, it's important to know what others are thinking because others can keep us alive. But again, unfortunately, that can also lead to problems. It can be maladaptive. And a big problem that, like, that can lead to is that we are emotionally affected by what we think the other person might be thinking, regardless of how accurate, like, that prediction of what they're actually thinking is. Like, we could be thinking that someone hates us and, like, feel bad, like, oh my god, that guy hates me. And then they think you're the best person in the world. But, like, it still feels real, you know? So, like, when someone doesn't GG, or when they instantly leave, or like when they're hanging around typing and you see the dot 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 in the closed chat, like we are trained to wonder why they're doing that and to make judgments based off of it, like judgments that often have a negative component to it. When somebody like immediately leaves, what's your first thought? It's like, they're salty, I made them mad, they're mad, you know? But if you're not chatting with someone, you really don't need to know if or when they leave the lobby. Like, the only thing that does is make us wonder why they're leaving at the time they do. Like, it's a kind of communication, it's a form of communication that we actually like acutely pick up on without realizing it most of the time. We're really, really good at this. But sometimes, because we're really good at it, we can get caught up in negative loops, like things like this, without even realizing it. The negative loop of every time someone instantly leaves, we think, I made them mad, they're upset, you know? Or maybe, they're mad at me, they're upset at me, even though that could be completely wrong. So, that's why I think, again, for disabling chat option, for if you have chat disabled, this should be gone. Because I think the opt-in option could be just exactly how we have it now. I guess without the GG thing, because that's the whole point. I went into that. Let's go to the next one. Okay. Why remove the add friend or see profile button? Because, you know, maybe you're in a post-game lobby, and if you don't have chat, then, like, what if you want to be friends with them, you know? What if you liked their gameplay and their play style and you want to play with them more? Like, the thing is, you can still see their names in the lobby. Like, you can search them up if you really wanted to. But like, I'm not going to ignore the fact that that takes extra work, but that's also exactly the point. Like, remember the organ donation example? We're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have used that example, because people are gonna, okay, whatever. People really don't want to go out of their way. Like, they don't want to go through extra effort to do something inconvenient in order to like get somewhere. So, removing the add friend button, if you have chat disabled, is a fantastic way to de-incentivize people, like bypassing in-game chat and bypassing in-game chat bans by adding their opponents to their friends list. Because right now what happens is, even if players escape the toxicity from the post-game lobby, people are literally adding their opponents in order to continue flaming them from outside of the game. Like, this is happening right now. And if one of those people with that kind of toxic behavior ran into a player with chat disabled, like, remember, if someone has chat disabled and both people have chat disabled, like, I can guarantee the thing they do, see chat's disabled, want to flame someone, just add the other player and then flame them on their friends list. Because, like, it takes 2 button presses to do that. But, like, removing this option by default, and again, you can opt in if you want to, it stops that pressure of that new friend request notification from, you know, bringing you that lump of anxiety I described earlier in your chest, in your throat, or whatever. Because is someone really going to go all the way out of their way to search you up on Steam or search you up on PS4 or Xbox or Switch? I guess that's Switch code. I don't know how it works on Switch. I'm going to be honest. I don't know how it works on Switch. Like, are they really going to go all the way out of their way to do that, to find you, then to add you, to sift through, like, maybe your name is John and there's like 40,000 pages. Like, are they going to do that? Like, maybe they are, but by the time they finally get to you, they're probably a lot more level-headed than they were initially. I mean, maybe not, but probably less mad. So that's to de-incentivize people just adding people to bypass chat being disabled, you know? So that's why I think that's important. And then finally, I think this one's more simple, the removing the report button, because, like, in a lobby with chat disabled, there's no need to report, because, like, there's no bad behavior, which means also, like, if there's no bad behavior to report, then that means less sifting through reports for BMG, and then they can nail the actual, like, super bad offenders. Because if someone is legitimately cheating, which is, like, pretty rare, it's pretty much like people booting others off or, like, boosting or something like that, like, there's still Brawlhalla support emails, and there's still the post-game lobby, and there's still the replays to get the players' names and their information to report them, but, you know, that thing is pretty rare. And, like, I know that I just described how adding extra steps really de-incentivizes people from doing things, but, like, it's also true for this. Like, adding extra steps to report people in a disabled chat lobby means that people will be de-incentivized to mess with the system. Like, if it's harder to report, then it's, like, for those with chat disabled, then those people also won't be making phony reports, because people are making, like, tons and tons of phony reports right now because they're salty, or because they don't understand that they lost packets, or that they DC'd and they think the other player's hacking them. Like, I think removing the report button for disabled chat lobbies, which again is the default, I think it would actually make it easier you know, BMG to identify the actual people abusing the servers, because then they don't have to go through, you know, those hordes and hordes of false reports. So again, you'd be able to opt in, you know, have chat exactly how it is now, but these are the three things that I think, you know, these are three things that I think we should have. We should have disabled chat by default, remove the GG button, and then remove all these post lobby buttons as well. So those are my ideas, but I'm not quite done yet. I still have a few things I want to say. First is that I was really thinking about this because I'm thinking about other problems like you and the community are facing right now with regards to Brawlhalla. Like, I've been writing up notes about ranked anxiety and stress and breaking through a plateau or a wall that you're struggling with, and because of that I've thought a lot about consequence. And part of what makes us stress is consequence. And the thing is, like, if you're expecting to get flamed in a post-game lobby, the consequence of losing skyrockets up, and then your anxiety, like, skyrockets up with it. So you can see that, like, me thinking about ranked anxiety and people being stressed, like, led me to this thought about toxicity. But, like, again, there's a couple things that I think are important to mention. And the first thing is that I'm not talking about taunts or lame playstyles or intentionally disrespecting in the game. Like, if you want my stance, I firmly believe that anything in the game is fair game. If you're getting flustered by an opponent taunting you in-game, then that taunt becomes a strategy for your opponent to use against you. Like, regardless of what their intentions are behind it, when it's in a game, it's fair game. So I don't mean toxicity in playstyles at all, because, like, we think of disrespect as only a negative thing. But in the context of fighting games, like, that's just not what it is. Like, disrespect means you do certain things based on your understanding of your opponent's skill level, or, like, lack of skill level. Like, it's doing the same move over and over and over again because it's just working, or it's going for a long extended string rather than baiting out a dodge because you think your opponent, like, won't try to dodge or isn't able to dodge or isn't skilled enough to dodge. Like, it's going for an unexpected ground pound because you think your opponent won't be ready enough, or again, like, or skilled enough to dodge it. So, like, disrespect is part of playstyle. It's part of strategy. Like, and whether or not that's playful, like, it can be playful, it can be malicious, but at the end of the day, that's in the game. It's all about the game. It's not about you as a person. Like, that's really important. That's really, really important. It's about the gameplay, not about who you are. Unfortunately, though, disrespect, like, playful or otherwise, has an extremely, extremely easy opening to seep into areas where it is about who you are. And it's done so on a massive player scale, as we know. You know, Brawlhalla community, here we are. That's why I'm making this video. And I really, really do think, like, going back to the beginning, that post-game toxicity has contributed in huge part to the toxicity we see elsewhere by just perpetuating these ideas and then also people internalizing the negativity. And remember, I'm not saying that these things will stop toxicity from existing. Like, that's not the goal. That's not the goal. Maybe as a side effect, if people don't have immediate access to, you know, unleashing hurt onto other people, maybe they'll feel happier and maybe they'll be less inclined to be toxic, you know, in other places. But that's a potential side effect. That's not what I'm going for. Like, this is about stopping toxicity from reaching the people that it will hurt, and by stopping it from reaching those people, maybe it'll also help prevent those people from spreading it themselves, you know. The last thing I wanted to say before closing out is that I know me trying to push for these things, you know, it'll get some people to dislike me. They'll see me as trying to take away their fun, trying to limit their enjoyment of flaming others and of trash talking and of just chatting. But you know what, like, I'm okay with that, because I really, really believe in what I'm trying to do. I really, really care about those who are hurt by others in our community, and those that don't have to be. And like really, if maybe this is dumb to say, but I care about the people who do toxic things too. Like, if you're someone that dislikes me because I'm talking about this, like, I still care about you in a weird way. I know you might not believe me, but I do. Like, because you're saying all these things, like, you're acting toxic towards people for a reason, and it's important to think about what that reason is and what to do, how to help. Like, what's making you so angry or so unhappy or so dissatisfied that you feel the need to make others feel worse in order for yourself to feel better? Like, that's important too, you know that? Like, that's important too. And I hope that you won't need to do that. you know? And I'm not an expert, obviously. I mentioned this. Like, I'm not a doctor or a therapist. I'm not some volunteer social worker. Like, I'm not doing this because it's like my higher calling. Like, I'm doing this because I'm one of you. Like, I'm just a kid in the community playing the game because I love the game. And I can't do this alone. Like, I can't try and help our community alone. And I know I'm not alone. I know you care too. So, let's try and do this together. Because it means something.